Welcome back to Beer Brackets, everybody. Today we have an iconic IPA in front of us here that we're going to be reviewing. It's only our second ever IPA on the channel that we're reviewing, and it's a big one. This brand has kind of been looming in the background for quite a while. It's a classic brand. It's been around since 1993, based out of Lagunitas, California. And originally they started down there. They actually now have a bigger facility in Chicago since they were fully bought out by Heineken to sort of up production as they became more and more popular. And interesting about that, they were considered one of the original craft breweries in the U.S. producing this style of beer and India Pale Ale. Then they were slowly bought out by Heineken, eventually taking over 100% stake in them. So they're no longer considered craft, being completely owned by Heineken, but they are still an iconic American brewery and one of the originators probably of the IPA in the U.S. at least, and one of the brands that's been around for quite a long time there.
You don't really make beer, you create circumstances where beer can occur. I bought a homebrew kit, brewed the first batch, unbelievable beer. But it was totally beginner's luck because I brewed the second batch, moldy ass.
Right, man, I'm so excited about this. You must be pumped about this one too, being an American yourself.
I am, my friend. You're absolutely right. And kind of like you mentioned, for me coming from Europe and Italy in particular, where IPAs, when I moved here, were still not like as popular as they are now. They're getting more and more popular now. But at first, so when I moved here, I didn't know many, and people just kept recommending to me, like, you got to try the Lagunitas IPA. You got to try the Lagunitas. Because it's, and for good reasons, like it's been around like for quite a while, like you said, around 30 years at this point. So it deserves a spot up there with some of the first ones that like led the way to newer versions of that style.
Fun fact about Lagunitas, to give you a bit of an idea of how entrenched they are in this IPA style and what we know of today as being IPAs and how long they've been around. Those three letters that you see there, IPA on the front, originally they at least thought they were the originators and the first ones to put the acronym IPA on the front of their cans and the labels on their bottles. And they thought, Sierra Nevada being, we have an episode, is Sierra Nevada one of the original craft beers, being at the time in the early 90s, at the very beginnings of the craft beer revolution. They actually claimed that they were the first ones and that Sierra Nevada was kind of ripping them off by putting IPA on their labels. And they started a beer war. And they tried to sue them over using the acronym IPA instead of listing it out as India Pale Ale, as most did at the time. And as what happens with most beer wars, as you keep drinking the beer, and the war eventually dies down and nothing happened, and there was a bit of a public outburst at the time that caused them to sort of drop the lawsuit, and nothing came of it, which is a common theme, my friend, as we've seen.
Yeah, right? Like, it seems like every time these beer wars come up, even in history, with the monks, like, there's always this tension that leads people to get, like, upset about, like, those monasteries that are making beer, or, like, this, but then, like you're saying, like, they slowly die down as they're drinking the beer, probably.
I think this is what happens with beer. If there's one or two beers, you get all riled up and I'm going to start a beer war. And then if the third or fourth, it's like, I'm just going to go to bed. I'm just going to take it easy. I love everybody. I love you all.
Exactly.
Did not mean to start a beer war. Let's just take it easy and order a pizza.
Exactly.
I think that's what happens.
That's when that happens, like that moment, that magic moment in the night when it's time to get a pizza all together.
I wonder if they were making pizzas in those ancient monasteries.
Oh, I could see that.
Monasteries, if they had stone pizza ovens. If they're drinking beer all day, especially on those Lent beer fasts, I'm sure they needed some stone pizza ovens.
That's right.
So you were telling me before that you have some fun facts about Lagunitas, or at least about the can.
Yes, my friend. So I can see there that you have the old style can. Like, I got lucky enough to get the newer version here, the new iteration with the nice new graphic. Yeah. And as you can see, it's a little bit more colorful. But when I get a new can, I always like to inspect it a little bit, see what treasures kind of like,
as a good beer explorer does.
Exactly. Try to make it more fun. Here on the side, it tells you a little bit about the story, about the brewery. It's been around like for 30 years and change. And then there's this sentence which I thought is perfect, like, because it really inspires you to think, okay, now I would really want to try it. And the sentence is, now brewed from Petaluma to Chicago and beyond. Yet somehow this particular can found its way into your reality at this very moment. And to me, that's very beer bracket of the month, my friend. Very beer bracket.
That's very beer bracket. Friend, I think we've been beerless for too long. I am excited. I've had this one before. It has been quite some time, but I am excited to review our second IPA ever on the Beer Brackets channel. Let's do it, buddy. Let's crack these open.
And reviewing anyway, it's always an exciting event because we become beer barometers, and that's when everything changes.
Exactly. I got to call you out on something.
Oh, go right ahead, my friend.
You did say in our Stone Fear Movie Lions IPA review that the next time we reviewed an IPA, you would wear your beer tie.
You are right. You are right, my friend.
You did say this. And I have to say, I'm a little disappointed I'm a little disappointed, but a little relieved that the beer accountant did not show his face. Because that beer accountant was strict. Was rather strict. You were giving some harsh marks on the Stone FML.
Cheers. Cheers, my friend.
Aroma cheers. What do you think? Ooh, I really like the aroma on this one.
Oh, nice.
This is a nice IPA aroma.
First of all, I know it's not a category, but look at this color. Like, so it's
Isn't it
nice
beautiful?
Amber, almost like.
Oh man, I was just thinking that. It's beautiful.
Nice head retention there with the foam. Look at that, like how it sits nicely.
Yeah.
So
Really beautiful looking beer.
So
wow.
This to me, I don't know if it's because maybe is one of the first one that I've had. So your brain is kind of like going back to it for some reasons, but to me, this one really speaks a lot to when I think about an IPA, what I imagine. It has those very nice pronounced hop aromas. They are complex, but they're not overly potent. And I like that I can still smell like that nice maltiness in it. I do get like some of that. It's almost like a grainy surrounding to this like hop presence.
Yeah, very.
So like smelling like those fresh roasted barleys, malted barley, sorry, like that, and then like having this like almost like fresh like hops, like it's really that kind of like feeling. Like it's very well done. I think I'm gonna go, my friend, with a 2.5 because I really like the aroma. It invites me to get in the glass. Compared to other IPAs I've had, like there's some that have like a little bit more of a presence that I kind of like. It's a little bit more to my liking, but this one here is definitely up there. Like I really enjoy it. What do you think?
This is an amazing aroma for an IPA, and I think the coloration of the beer is a big indicator. It's almost like foreshadowing of what you're going to be smelling. You mentioned the malted barley. I even get like some sweetness in there, almost like some caramel, caramel, or like molasses.
Absolutely right.
That's there, almost like like a caramelized sort of like the burnt edge of bread of like a sourdough loaf or something like that. But really like a caramel or molasses. I get that, and then maybe even like a little bit of fruitiness too, like a deep fruitiness, like a prune or something mixed in there. There's this really interesting sort of sweet underbelly to the smell of it that's kind of hidden under there. It's really subtle, but it's delicious, and it makes it really interesting. This is a 3-on-3 aroma for me, man. I'm loving this. This is delicious.
Nice.
Starting off with a 3. I'm starting off strong. It's definitely, it's making me really want to go in for a sip. So cheers, buddy.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Let's see how we feel.
Oh,
wow.
Nice. Once again, like this to me feels like something I've tasted before, but that it feels like coming home to something. It has that unique way of presenting those elements. I love how on the palate you get immediately this explosion of hops, but it's not overpowering. It just kind of like slowly fades. And then I like that descriptor that you use about like that sweet element, a little bit of that malt presence, like that grainy malt character takes over a little bit, and it's not overshadowing, but it's balancing out the hops. I have to say, like this one here, like on the palate, it's very crushable. It's very delicious, and it's very well done with all the flavors.
Crushable. It's a good word.
I gotta give it a 3. This on the palate, I really love it.
Kind of the same descriptors as the aroma on the taste. This is really surprising to me. I didn't remember. I think the last time I had this was on draft, and I don't remember it being exactly like this. But this is delicious. Yeah, I think it's almost like a pale ale.
Yes.
More than it is an IPA for me. There's a lot of maltiness that's coming through, more so than what you would classically expect from an IPA. If I was just blinded and I couldn't see the can, I didn't know this was an IPA, I would never guess that this was an IPA just for how malt forward it is. I'm really loving it. It's delicious. It's flavorful. It's got really interesting character to it. And being the type of beer drinker who Doesn't really like to be assaulted with hops in his beer. I'm really appreciating that part of it. I'm going to go with a 2.5 on the taste, I think. It's up there. Not quite perfect level, but it's really, really, really interesting and delicious and unique. Unique is the big word here. Now, my friend, we got to do our classic mouthfeel refresher.
There it is.
Beer bracket tradition. Oh, look at that. Like you said, such a beautiful beer.
It does have that unique color and very nice presentation.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. All right, what do you think? Oh, God, I keep getting whiffs of it. I just love the aroma. That is like a 3-on-3 aroma if I ever smelled one.
I love that this review is probably surprising us both because we've had this one before, but probably coming from this long, let's call it like phase without necessarily like analyzing IPAs has probably brought us back like into the element like with a different set of eyes, right? Like a different view.
Oh, totally. Really breaking it down and taking the time to pick apart all these elements is very interesting.
Yeah, I
very
agree.
Interesting.
I love the carbonation on this. I have to say, like, it's quite refreshing the way, like, it really cleanses your palate. But I would even say that what the carbonation is kind of leaving behind, like, the hop presence are kind of like cleansing and rinsing and elevating because the hops are sticking around like in a very pleasant way. It leaves almost like this gentle fruitiness. I'd almost say like a little tropical note finish there. Like if you let it linger enough, like it turns into from bitterness, it turns into this sweet fruit, a pineapple almost, I would say. But it's very, we say sometimes sticky, oily. Absolutely not. It's crushable. It's like you can't wait to get into the glass for another sip. Like
crushable is your word of the day.
I think that it's what like I associate with this beer. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the 2.5, my friend. Like there's nothing that is wowing me, but it's very well done. It's almost perfect. I would almost like a little bit of a surprise there, like on that mouthfeel, like for maybe a little bit more of that carbonation. That might be just because it's in the can. What do you think?
Yeah, this is kind of like middle of the road for mouthfeel for me. Nothing wrong with it, but it's just sort of, there's nothing interesting. There's nothing really unique. There's nothing sort of that stands apart about the carbonation or the body of the beer. It's very, like you said, very crushable, very sessionable. This beer is very easy to drink. It's very refreshing. You can see as you kind of rotate the beer around in the glass, it doesn't really have any kind of lacing on it, so to speak. There's a little bit and it's gone right away. It's very clean. Like you said, it doesn't leave a residue in your mouth. It's not really oily or sticky. It's just clean and refreshing. But at the same time, doesn't really do anything unique or outstanding. So I'm going to go with a 2. And now, my friend, the finish. I'm actually not looking forward so much to talking about the finish on this beer, but before I get into that, I'll let you go first. What do you think?
I did want to mention, like I forgot to say it in the mouthfeel, like it is a 6.2% beer. So I was, I went back like to look at the can. Like I find that quite surprising because it doesn't feel like as heavy as actually
it really,
the alcohol
it's so light, so light. Yeah. It's got like the body of a light beer,
it does.
Like a 4.5.
Which makes it dangerous in my opinion. Maybe that's why the can is red. The finish is interesting because, like I said, like on the mouthfeel, like the carbonation rinses the palate. Like you have a little bit of this bitterness that like gets into the sweetness. I would almost say like the sweetness lingers for a little bit too long for me. But if I wait, like it just kind of like almost turns into this like oily stickiness that I'm not particularly a fan of. It's not bad, but I think a 1.5 is where I'm going to land because I can't really quite give it a 2 at least. What do you think, my friend?
I mean, the finish is kind of my least favorite part of this beer. This is the dichotomy of beer, like the sort of the double-edged sword of beer. What made the aroma so interesting, those characteristics are very present on the finish. For me, like that sweetness, like you said, that molasses or that caramel that I described on the aroma, and it lingers a little bit, and it's really kind of harsh. It's almost like a little bit of a burnt character that you get on it too, like a burnt bread. It's unique. For an IPA, it's a very unique finish, so I'm not going to go down to a 1.5, but it's enough that by the time I get to the end of my pint here, I'm getting a little fatigued from it. I'm getting a little tired from the finish. It's taking away from the beer experience a little bit for me. I'm not going to go as far down to 1.5 because again, it is unique for me, but I'm going to go with a 2. So now, my friend, the overall beer experience for Lagunitas India Pale Ale from start to finish. What do you think?
So, my friend, as we say many times, this is where the intangibles a little bit come into play. And
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of strong connections to this beer. But like I mentioned in the intro, this for me is a beer that definitely has been one of the first IPAs that has introduced me to the style, at least the American style interpretation of IPAs. While I'm not a huge fan of the style itself, like I do think that this one here has like a very strong connection with some of the flavors that I associate and then the way that I not judge, but like I compare beers in that style. So I think that deserves a mention. So I think the overall for me is going to land at a 2.5 because like it has good flavors. It's not quite to bring it up to where it should be, but because it's one of the first one that I've had, like I think it deserves that like that extra bump for me. What do you think?
I'm really torn on the overall score for this one. I have no idea what to give it because as far as IPAs go, if we're reviewing this in sort of like an IPA vortex, this, as far as IPAs go, is extremely enjoyable for me because, like I said, it's more like along the lines of a pale ale more than an IPA, in my opinion. So for somebody like me who's an IPA weakling, you could put it that way, this is amazing. I'm really liking this. But that finish just takes away a lot for me, even though I couldn't go down below a 2. I can't get over it. After the first couple of sips, it's all I can think about. Just that finish is really prevalent. But as an IPA, it's still a very, very enjoyable beer. So I think I'm going to stick with a 2. I think 2 is a very good middle ground for that reason. So calculating our final scores, everybody, for Lagunitas IPA for Alessandro, that came out to a 4 on 5. It's a pretty high score. So it's an excellent beer in our beer rating system. For myself, it was a little bit lower, 3.83 on 5, which is still in that excellent beer category, which this is. This is an excellent beer. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed our second ever IPA review. Let us know down below if there's any other IPAs you'd like us to review. If we can both get them, we will definitely do it. And more than anything else, don't forget to close your IPA beer brackets.
Never forget.
Never forget. Cheers, everybody. See you next time.
Moldy ass.